All right. Everybody ready for lunch? Okay, I'll try not to hold you up too long. I've really got two goals for this presentation. I want to, number one, give you a tool that you can put to use right away. And number two, maybe change the way you approach information security within your own organizations. Nope. All right, so we're going to talk about being proactive. What do we need to do in order to make sure that we're thinking about the business and that we're thinking about information security in those terms and can take action before risks actually materialize? So, ask yourself, are we a roadblock to progress? Information security has to evolve from being simply an IT process to one that's run by the business. As a leader, we have a job to not only protect our company's assets, but also make sure that we're adding value to the business. So what do our peers think? Do we support their objectives or do we inhibit them? A lot of executives think that security is easy. You lock the door, you post the guard, you make sure nobody comes in. They might tell you, use that money to build something that's secure. They don't want to hear about risks and vulnerabilities. The truth is, information security is often a complicated matter. And when talking to people who aren't in this room, who aren't information security practitioners, sometimes the best approach is a simple one. So, as information security leaders, there are a few things that we can provide. Obviously, we're often a compliance enforcer and advisor. We can be a business enabler. We can provide security as a differentiator. You've heard about that earlier today. We can add to the total quality that's being put out by our company. And we can be this peopleware controller. We can put processes in place that govern the actions of our users. So how do we quickly and strategically place ourselves in a more proactive position? The answer I'm going to give you today isn't something that's a technology. It's not a vendor-driven product. It's something that you can go out and create yourselves. This proactive process obviously has some benefits. If you integrate security in at the beginning, you can help to create that culture of security within your organization. That means, for those of you who might be in a similar position to I am, where security is vastly outnumbered by everybody else in the business, that means you can deputize your entire workforce into thinking about these things and bringing them to you before they become an issue. A little bit about me and the role that I'm in. I work for a global company, but a relatively small business unit. We have less than 1,000 employees, but we contribute a very large percentage of company profits. So it's highly critical for us to make sure that we're protecting things properly. We also do business in various countries with differing regulatory requirements. I'm based in the US, and forgive me because my body feels like it's about 2 in the morning right now. So if you have any questions afterwards, feel free to stop me at lunch or dinner this evening. We do have a relatively consolidated IT team. Most of us are in one location with several people spread out. But it's easy to sit down and talk to people or pick up the phone and reach them. We're also a company that's going through a lot of change. And it's one of our top priorities to be able to manage that in a way that promotes information security. Before I came on board, and I'm sure many of you have faced this as well, security had a bad reputation. We can be a bottleneck. We can slow things down. And so we need to work to get into the business processes as soon as possible in order to make sure that we're providing solutions that can be addressed up front instead of something that comes in at the end and we either introduce risk to the environment knowing about it or stop a process and take time and money to fix it. So what I've created is a questionnaire, something that allows the people who are in your business to give us the details that we need to quickly make a decision. So a lot of companies do information security reviews, but they're not standardized, they're not built into the process. They might be ad hoc. Is that really still appropriate for all of the risks that we've heard about today? So what I recommend is to develop a standard questionnaire that you can build into your process. Complete it as soon as you can. Include the most important information. Who's responsible for the changes? What are the impacts? Where is the equipment physically located, et cetera? The idea is include the questions that you need answered so that you can gauge how serious the risks are to confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We do this through a privacy and security impact assessment. It's a tool that helps us mitigate risks. We're a health insurance company. We store a lot of PII, a lot of health information, and we need to ensure our customers and our board that information is properly protected. So we require this form before any new project is kicked off that requires IT development. And we're trying to integrate that into larger business processes that are not inclusive of IT to cover the entire gamut of information, both paper and electronic. The important thing here is that it's not completed by IT necessarily or information security personnel. It's completed by the people who understand the change, whether it's the business leaders, our project managers, business analysts, et cetera. And any of these impact assessments, once they're completed, are available for review. Now, this isn't something new. I'm not going to take credit for creating a privacy impact assessment. This is recommended by certification authorities, leading organizations. It's used by governments around the world, particularly started off in the UK. But their approach is often a very complex process. These can be 20 to 50-page assessments that give detailed analysis. What I'm proposing instead is think about the most critical questions you need to ask and squeeze them down into one page. Let people fill out this form and have a conversation about it so that you can understand, or your staff can, as to what types of requirements should be embedded in this project in order for it to be secure. So this approach has a few advantages. We have a form that's very easy to understand. It can be completed quickly, and it addresses all of the things that we need to consider up front. Obviously, on one page, we're capturing a lot less information than we might be in 20 pages. And this isn't going to produce a risk score at the end. It's not a quantitative risk analysis. It's just a qualitative assessment of where we are. One thing I wasn't quite sure where to put, this does require a short training for the users, for people who are completing the form. They need to understand what we're looking for, how to write information, and how to approach us. It also requires a review by an expert, like yourselves. So we've divided this into two sections. The first tells us how detailed we need to review the analysis. How sensitive is the information? If you're using a classification, it's a great way to get that information before the data gets created. Specifically, what types of PII or what types of health information are included. If we find that it's a high risk based on those answers, then we ask for the remainder of the questions to be answered. What critical systems are affected? Somebody asked earlier today, do you know where your crown jewels are? That's what we're looking at. How is the information being used? These are often attached to business requirements. So we need a quick summary that tells us, okay, if you're using health information, is it, for example, for marketing purposes? Is it for analytics? Or is it to process claims faster? Are any third parties involved? A lot of the work that we do is outsourced. We do a lot of development internally, but we also have to rely on third parties. Who are they? That gives us the opportunity to then find out, do we have the correct contracts in place? Do they have security assurance? Database changes, again, going back to critical information. Where is the equipment physically located? One of the recurring themes we hear with cloud solutions, we don't know where that data actually lives. So this gives us the opportunity to ask that up front, and if they don't know, we can find out. And at a company like ours, where we're operating in different jurisdictions, it's important for us to know which laws are going to apply. What's the business continuity impact? This is a question that's going to address availability of that information. What happens if that project goes offline or isn't able to be completed? And finally, what are the logical access rights that are needed? Who's going to be able to read the data? Who's going to be able to edit it? What kind of administrative rights will there be? We do this in a weekly review so that we get everything. We sit down at once, review it with all the interested parties, whether those are the project managers or our compliance team. And if we have further questions, it gives us the chance to go out and investigate. Once we have the form completed, there's a formal sign-off process, and a copy of that is shared with everybody. This gives us the ability to integrate security into the process at an early stage. It's considered when the business requirements are being developed. And ultimately what happens is the people responsible for creating those requirements think about it up front. They don't come to us with something that's half-baked. They've thought, okay, well, if I'm using protected health information and it's in a certain way, it needs to be encrypted or it can't be shared, we get that security culture built into the enterprise. And because we're not coming in at the end of the process and we're not saying, no, you can't go live with this because of X, Y, and Z risks, we position security as a friend to the business, which means they're more likely to come to us with other issues. Notwithstanding what we're talking about today, but having a good working relationship with your executive team, for example, which you can foster by not telling them no right before they're going to go live, can help them come to you with other issues that we need to react to. And ultimately, that helps providing assurance to your leadership team. I'll save questions for lunchtime. I know we're in a rush.
So thanks.
I see Bikash smiling.
Yeah. Thank you. So, yeah, so one thing which we are doing is I actually